Hi, first grade, and happy Holy Week. It's Mrs. Storm and Jesus again, and we're here to share with you the next part of Jesus' special story. As I've been telling you, I should say, in the middle of the most special, most sacred, holiest time of the whole church year called the Triduum. Yesterday, the church celebrated Holy Thursday, the Mass of the Lord's Supper, when we remember Jesus' Last Supper with his friends. Today we call Good Friday. And Good Friday is the day that we remember Jesus and his story of the cross. So I brought with me today a couple of extra special props. I brought to you today a crucifix, an image of Jesus on the cross as he was in the process of dying. This is something that we honor today in the Catholic Church. I brought to you a big one, but I also brought to you a small one. And the small one to me is extra special because I have to tell you, when I was in college, I had an opportunity to do a study abroad program in Europe. And during my time in Europe, I traveled to a place called the Vatican, which is in Italy. And I was able to be in the audience of Pope John Paul II. He's actually now considered a saint. He was that amazing of a human being that now we call him Saint John Paul II. But back when he was alive, he wasn't considered a saint yet. When I was only 19 years old, I was able to be in what's called the papal audience. And I got to see him with my very own eyes. And this crucifix I bought for my dad from the Vatican store when I was there during my trip. And as part of your time in the papal audience, at least at that time, the Pope took an opportunity to bless objects that you may have brought with you. So this crucifix that I bought for my dad a long time ago was actually blessed by Pope John Paul II, who's now considered a saint. So this is a really special crucifix to me. It reminds me of my dad, who was very important to me. And also it reminds me of Saint John Paul II. So Jesus and I, and our crucifix here, we'd like to share with you the story today from your beginner's Bible of Good Friday. Now I know we call it Good Friday, the church calls it Good Friday, but really, to be quite honest, in my opinion, it's a very sad part of Jesus' story. And that's why in your beginner's Bible, the title of today's story is called Sadness. This comes again from the Gospel according to John. We've been hearing a lot from John this week, haven't we? It was night. Jesus took his friends to a garden. There Jesus prayed. And there Judas carried out this bad idea. He led soldiers to the garden. He showed them where Jesus was. Jesus knew he would. And it was all right. Jesus went with them. You see, it was time for Jesus to die. God had planned it long ago. Jesus knew it would happen when he came to the earth. He came to take the punishment for all the wrong things anybody had ever done or ever would do. And now it was time. The soldiers took him to the leaders. The leaders did not believe that he was God's son. They said, "He must die because he calls himself the Son of God." So they killed him on a cross. It was a sad day for Jesus' friends, but they did not know that God had planned a wonderful surprise for them, and they would not be sad for long. So I mentioned today that Good Friday is the day we remember the cross, the really hard part of Jesus' story. We can think back to the Stations of the Cross when he was condemned to death and given the cross, and that cross was so heavy and it was so exhausting that he fell more than once. He fell 3 times, we learn. And eventually, of course, he was nailed and died on the cross. We remember this part of the story because it's without this part of the story, without this part, there would be no Easter. Without this part, there would be no resurrection. Without this part of Jesus' story, without him saying yes to God, I'll do it, even though it's crazy hard, I will do this. Without this, we would have no heaven. See, Jesus, through this act of love, of giving his life for each one of us, in turn gives us the gift of eternal life. Catholics call that heaven. And that's something we can talk about on another day. But for today on Good Friday, I want to wish you all a very peaceful day. For me growing up, Good Friday was always kind of a quiet day. It's a day just set apart from any other day of the year. It's a day where I really had to think about Jesus' sacrifice, what he did for us, his gift of love. And I invite for you to spend some time today. I know life is busy. We're all very busy. But just spend even a few minutes in a quiet place, somewhere away from TV, away from technology, away from noise of any kind. And just try to find a quiet place where you might spend just a few moments with Jesus, talking to him, maybe listening to what he might want to say to you. And if nothing else, perhaps you could take a moment just to say thank you. Thank you for giving your life for me. We are so blessed by his sacrifice. I wish you all a wonderful Good Friday, a wonderful Easter weekend, and I'm super excited to share the most amazing part of Jesus' story the next time I see you. All right? God bless you. I miss you, and I hope you're all doing well. Bye-bye.